7. Barrett outside the switch. Doncic goes, oh, what a great step! And then he hammers it home. Broke his ankles.
We all hate school, specifically school report cards, as it really affects your marking period grade and if you go on to pass the school year as well. As a lot of people have anxiety and they get really mad and they end up having a very bad day if they come home with a bad report card, or they may be embarrassed or just very scared of what their parents might think, and they end up crumbling it up or ripping it and throwing it in the garbage or somewhere so their parents do not see it whatsoever because they're really scared of their reaction, like I said, and you end up getting in more trouble later down the road. And you guys are probably wondering, where are you going with this, Noah? You make absolutely no sense right now. Well, I'm going to be handing out report cards to the New York Knicks, if it's Tom Thibodeau at the helm or even the roster. Keep in mind, I am going to be grading players that have a big sample size. So Frank Ntilikina is not going to be in this. Sorry, Frank, you've played good a couple games, but you've been hurt. Of course, you've been out because you've been close with people due to the virus. And also, yeah, you just simply have not been playing at all. So yes, a guy like Frank Ntilikina will not be in this video, and anyone that does not have a high sample size, also a guy like Austin Rivers, he was in there for a little majority of games, but I'm going to be grading players that still continue to go on to play and are kind of a part of the future or continuing to play today, if you know what I'm saying. And I'm also going to be giving Tom Thibodeau a grade, like I said, who's at the helm of the Knicks, and a big reason the Knicks are successful as of right now. But before we get into the grades, we're going to be starting off with the expectations of entering the season. My expectations were very low. It's not because I'm a negative person. Actually, that might be a lie, but anyone that entered the season with high expectations, good for you. I did not whatsoever, especially when you have unproven young talent and it's your very first year with a brand new head coach. Just think about it. RJ Barrett came off of an okay season, inefficient season, still has a lot of work to do. He still remains to be 20 years old. Kevin Knox is a big question mark. Emmanuel Quickley, you don't know what you're getting out of him. And yes, I wanted Tyrell Terry. Emmanuel Quickley, someone that kind of scared me. Yes, he stands at 6'3" with a kind of weird long wingspan for someone who's only 6'3", and he had the ability to shoot from downtown. If it was a little bit off the dribble, if he was spotting up in the corner, he did a really good job creating separation, moving without the basketball. Needs to get better coming off of screens and knocking down shots. He had the floater, the teardrop shot in his arsenal, but he wasn't really a true point guard. There were some questions if he was able to make the right passes. Was he too ball dominant? He's good on the ball playing defense, but how is he away from the ball? And he's not really that quick, and he's not really that athletic, even though he's looked quicker than I thought in his NBA career. And yes, I wanted Tyrell Terry, who could really shoot the ball, and he's more of your prototypical point guard who could pass the ball. But it looks like the physicality of the NBA is definitely not helping him out whatsoever, as he's currently in the G League with the hustle, and he's actually balling out. But it's kind of hard to get minutes when you're on a team that's trying to contend for a championship of the Mavericks. Yes, they don't look like it, but when you have Luka Doncic on your roster, you're going to be trying to contend for a championship every single year. And Julius Randle was one of the most hated players in New York last year. It wasn't because he's not talented. He's a very ridiculous talent. It was his basketball IQ. And if he was starting the development of RJ, turning the ball over, not playing defense, being inefficient to some people in the world, even though I didn't think he was crazy inefficient, he would just take bad shots there and there. People did not like Randle's style of play, and Mitch remained to stay in foul trouble. So we had a lot of work to do. And I thought this was going to be a team that showed growth as a basketball team, and they learned to win games towards the end of the season. I did not think this was going to happen right away, as the Knicks are currently 19-18, and they're the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. Yes, I did not expect that. And of course, we went on to draft Obi Toppin, and a lot of people were excited because it looked like we had Julius Randle's replacement. I wasn't really one of those people, but I'm not going to go into the reasons why, because people are going to call me a hater. Actually, I'm not. I like to say he's a 23-year-old project at the moment who has some ability, but he has a lot to work on when it comes to literally everything on the court. Yes, this is not an Obi slander video. Chill out, Noah. As before we really officially get into the report cards, like I said, we're 19-18 in the 5th seed of the Eastern Conference. That could really change though, because literally there's a 2 or 3 game differential of the 5th seed and the 8th seed. It's absolutely crazy. But my expectations were that we're going to be in that area of the worst teams in the league as of like the Cavs and the Detroit Pistons. But for us to go on to beat teams like the Bucks, the Indiana Pacers, some people had high expectations with, team like the Boston Celtics win by 30, which is crazy to me. The Utah Jazz that are now going on this big time win streak. Yes, they took that personal ever since we beat them. We went on to beat the Trailblazers as well. We went on to beat the Warriors that are almost in the playoffs as of right now. Let's keep in mind the expectations were where we weren't going to beat Boston by 30. I thought we were going to be at the bottom of the barrel. But now officially getting into the report cards. As I'm going to be starting off with RJ Barrett, I give him a B-. I was considering a C+, but he's been playing fairly well his last 10 to 15 games. And his last 10 games, I believe he's shooting 40% from 3. But anyway, we're looking at his full season, as he's shown flashes of shooting very well from beyond the arc. He got his clip up from downtown from 31% to now 35% from downtown. He's got his free throw shooting up from 61% to 73%, which is definitely a big jump. 14 points per game up to 16 points per game. He's looked better as a passer, but his handle still needs a lot of work, and he's also not really consistently letting the game come to him, which is something scary. He's gotten better at defense, and his shot has looked a little better. It is still not a knockdown to solid shooter in the NBA. There is still some inconsistencies with it, but he's definitely shown flashes of being a very solid shooter in this league, or at least a solid one. Like, you can't really leave him outside on the perimeter like you used to be able to in the past. But we all know he has that mentality, and he's only 20 years old. He has shown flashes to be a very good player, but next year is definitely the year for RJ Barrett for kind of the flashes to go away. Like, yes, I said he's 20 years old, but after next season, the contract year is coming up. As heading into Mitchell Robinson, I give him a B-, because we have to be real when it comes to Mitchell Robinson. What did you expect from Mitch? He wasn't going to learn a hook shot overnight. He wasn't going to get better from downtown. He wasn't going to start shooting threes. There was something we asked of Mitch, and that was playing straight hands up fundamental defense, and that's what he's done this season when he was healthy before Nerlin's Noel stepped in. As he really started to stay out of foul trouble, he only had like 1 or 2 games this season with 5 fouls. He hasn't fouled out, and he's done a really good job rolling to the basket and really being that lob threat for us that scares opposing defenses. Yes, we would like to see him add a hook shot to his arsenal, but I feel like a B- is very fair, because that means he's a solid center in the NBA, and that's what it looks like for Mitchell Robinson, but he definitely needs to work on his awareness when it comes to the paint and knowing where to be on the court. Moving on to Immanuel Quickley, and it was very hard to give Immanuel Quickley an A, but I wanted to be as unbiased as possible. As we went on to take Immanuel Quickley with the 25th overall pick in the first round, as we actually got some trades going in that draft to go on to get an Immanuel Quickley. Just thank God we went on to sign Marcus Morris. If that didn't happen, we wouldn't have Immanuel Quickley right now. It's very possible Immanuel Quickley could just be a Lou Williams in his NBA career, but he looks like he's very good value with the 25th overall pick, as he's averaging 12 points per game on 39% shooting. He's shooting over the league average from downtown. He's top 5 in free throw percentage. That floater looks absolutely unguardable, even though at times it could not go in. But the reason I'm not giving him a near perfect grade of like an A or an A+, he's very good value, but he definitely has some stuff he needs to work on. I get it, he's a rookie, but he definitely needs to get better reading when to go under or over screens or guarding the pick and roll as well. And sometimes he really jumps on his passes, and he cannot take the best of shots, and he needs to get better at being a playmaker and reading when to make a pass out of the pick and roll and not always using that teardrop in the paint. And he needs to get better when that floater's not there, taking it stronger to the basket. But Immanuel Quickley's definitely B+ for the value we took him at, and just he's an absolute dog, and he's not afraid of the big moment, as he's definitely had some big games down the stretch, and he has been amazing for the New York Knicks. Moving on to Obi Toppin. Again, I'm going to be absolutely real with you guys. I give Obi Toppin a D. You guys know I'm not high on Obi Toppin, but I absolutely just look at the games, and Obi Toppin is not a good basketball player. He's 23 years old. That is a project. He's shown some promise from beyond the arc. Has it gone in? No, not really. Has he been good in the post? No, not really. He's been okay defensively. He's been better than what I thought. And yes, you could say the Knicks are not utilizing him the right way. We should have him cutting to the basket. They know what he's been since Dayton. You're going to have to try to do some unpredictable stuff. He's been okay at times, but Obi Toppin has looked lost. If it's on the defense side of the basketball, his jump shot not looking great, his confidence, but I get it, he does not play a lot of minutes, so I'm going to cut him some slack in that department. But as of right now, Obi Toppin does not look like a good pick. Moving on to Julius Randle, I give him an A. Is there any other way to put this? As he is the leader of the Knicks. I don't care, he's putting this team on his back, especially when you keep in mind Immanuel Quickley is going to have inconsistent games. RJ Barrett's going to have inconsistent games as well. You can't count on those players every single night. With Mitchell Robinson being out, having Nerlens Noel at the center position, he's delivering imperfect passes, and Nerlens Noel can't catch the basketball. Yes, there's other guys that are contributing to the basketball team, but Julius Randle literally has had 2 bad games this season. He's been unbelievable, and he's proved us wrong. As his leadership has gone up, you could tell he's more vocal on the court. His touch from beyond the arc, he's shooting 40% from downtown, 80% from the charity stripe. He's doing a really good job initiating contact. His defense is better. He's keeping his head up. So I don't want to hear that slander anymore of he's making players bad around him. As he's keeping his head up and getting others involved, he's been nearly flawless as a New York Knick. Yes, he has some turnover issues, but for him to work on his defense and get better, if that's a part of Tom Thibodeau, Johnny Bryant, just the whole coaching staff, of course, of Mike Woodson, being a better playmaker, having a softer touch, having that fadeaway, he's deadly from mid-range. He's been unbelievable this season, as Julius Randle is an all-star. Now getting into Alfred Payton. You guys know I'm not a big fan of Alfred Payton, and he's not a part of the future, but I give him a C+ because he has helped us win games. He has had some big games for the New York Knicks. Let's be absolutely real. He is not a part of the future, but he is playable. I understand why they play him. He plays very hard. He plays some solid defense. He's going to make the right plays out there. And sometimes when this offense is stagnant, you could say it's because of him because he can't shoot. He takes it tough to the basket. People are pissed at quickly not starting, but his playmaking's not nearly where it has to be on the court, and he's not a leader. And if you don't really have the leading yet, I get it. You're a rookie. You need playmaking, and you got to be able to control the offense. Payton has had some very bad games, but also he's been okay. He has stepped up in some pretty key moments in games, but I'm not going to go out here and give him an F. I think he's been solid for the New York Knicks. Moving on to Reggie Bullock. He plays defense, and he can shoot threes at a pretty okay clip. Next. Moving on to Nerlens Noel, the guy who can't catch a basketball, and don't worry, it's not a Knicks thing. He was not able to do it with the Oklahoma City Thunder. He's definitely been an anchor down low in the paint, and he's been a fundamental good defensive player who's actually been better than I thought when it comes to guarding the perimeter, and he's been a solid lob threat, and he's done a pretty solid job stepping in for Mitchell Robinson. Not much to say, I give him a B. Moving on to Alec Burke, someone that really started the season strong, as he was literally shooting like Stephen Curry out there. But ever since he came off of his injury, he's been really streaky shooting the basketball. He has had some big-time games, but he's been very inconsistent, very up and down, as I give him a C+. Now moving on to Tom Thibodeau, someone I've been a very big fan of, and I'm going to simply give him an A. He has the Knicks in the playoffs. What can we complain about? Actually, there are some things to complain about, and Immanuel Quickley is not one of them. I just got into those reasons earlier in the video. He has a lot to work on if he wants to be a starting point guard in the NBA. Let's start off with some things I love about Tom Thibodeau, as he is never satisfied. We could be up 20 points and he calls a timeout. I absolutely love that, and after a timeout, he makes the right adjustment and we score right away. That's something we couldn't say about Derek Fisher, Jeff Hornacek, Kurt Rambis, or even David Fizdale. Those guys were literally running YMCA teams, except Hornacek. I thought he was okay. He was definitely not great, though. And he holds guys accountable as well. David Fizdale literally act like the players were his friends. Yes, they could be friends off the court, but when it comes to on the court, it's all business. People like to complain about Immanuel Quickley. I was one of those people, but then I took a look at, oh my gosh, his playmaking needs help. This guy, when his shot's not on, he's kind of lost out there. He's going to play hard, but he definitely needs to get better of reading the pick and roll. His physicality, like playing defense against these certain guards, you could definitely tell he's struggling with that. And he just has a lot to work on. He can shoot the basketball, yes, and he has the floater in his arsenal, but can you rely on him to go strong to the basket and finish when that floater is not there? If you know what I'm saying, you need that playmaking in my opinion. And Quickley's been thriving in his role. Even if it's in 10 minutes, he makes the most out of every second he's on the floor. And this is a simple one, defense. I always thought we've had the personnel, but now we finally have the right coaching staff to get the most out of this roster on the defense side of the basketball. If it's effort, if it's technique, bringing in Kenny Payne, bringing in a Mike Woodson, bringing in a Johnny Bryant, and of course Tom Thibodeau, as he has this team in top 5 of literally every defensive category. So we're number 1 in points when it comes to defense. Also, let's talk about what Tom Thibodeau is working with. He's winning games with Alfred Payton at the point guard position. RJ Barrett's 20 years old. This team has never been in the playoffs. Payton hasn't been in the playoffs. RJ, Mitchell Robinson, Nerlens Noel has. He's starting as of right now, but if you're looking towards the future, Noel may not be that guy, of course, and Mitchell Robinson is possible he's not that guy, but Bullock hasn't been in the playoffs as well. So what he's doing with this team that can't consistently shoot the basketball has been amazing. He's gotten the most out of this ball club. Now getting into a couple things we can complain about. As he's playing guys way too long, we could be up 30 points in a basketball game, and Julius Randle's still in there in the fourth quarter, which I never understand. I get it, you want to win the game, but you're up 30 points and there's 4 minutes left. If you lose that game, even with G League players out there, there's really a serious problem. Also, the rotations are absolutely atrocious. It seems like he's very stubborn at times. He's going to roll with something that's not working. For example, we may be up 10 points, and he's going to be like, okay, we were up 10 points because of a guy like Derrick Rose out there. But sometimes he doesn't recognize when a team is coming back. Yes, he's recognizing a team's coming back, but he may not recognize that we need a spark off the bench, and he may take way too long to put a guy like Emmanuel quickly in. For example, if you're a Knicks fan, you know what I'm talking about. But as of right now, I give this Knicks team as a whole an A-. There's some little things that you can complain about, but as of right now, we are 19-18, and I thought we would have freaking 5 wins at this point in the season. I'm kidding. I didn't expect us to have 5 wins, but I did not expect us to be this good. But if it looks like this team's slacking defensively, and a million times John Wall blows past Derrick Rose, he's not going to make an adjustment, or he's not going to substitute someone in, or he may take way too long to really put someone in for them to create a spark. But as of right now, I give this Knicks team an A-. If you think of the expectations, this below average roster, or at least average roster, in my opinion, it's below average when compared to all the other teams in the NBA that are currently in the playoffs. He's gotten the most out of this team, and it's unbelievable. Yes, there's little things that you can nitpick, but as of right now, the Knicks are in the playoffs. Like, when was the last time I was able to say that? Like 2 games in the Kristaps Porzingis era? And even if the Knicks don't go on to make it to the playoffs, that's okay. This wasn't a year that we had to make it to the playoffs. We were just hoping for some development, and it looks like we have some solid young core pieces moving forward. Especially, it's promising seeing RJ Barrett come on as of late. The percentage is going up, looking like a more efficient basketball player, and if he lets the game come to him more, then that could be something that's scary for the New York Knicks moving forward. That's definitely something you would like to see. So then we're confident giving him that contract, being a part of the future. But this was literally just seeing the growth, the development, bringing a winning culture, just really expanding this team into something that's really bringing a good culture and not a toxic culture like the past. It actually looks like there's some positivity and optimism moving forward. So don't worry, Knicks fans. I think we're moving in the right direction.